Welcome to HDTV. You now rocking with your boy. Now, in the New York Times, an article was written talking about corporate insiders pocket $1 billion in rush for coronavirus vaccine. Well, Time stocks bets have generated big profits for senior executives and board members at companies developing vaccines and treatments. And this is by David Gels and Jesse Drucker. It was published July 25th, 2020. On June 26th, a small South San Francisco company called Vaxart made a surprise announcement. A coronavirus vaccine it was working on had been selected by the U.S. government to be part of Operation Warp Speed, the flagship federal initiative to quickly develop drugs to combat COVID-19. Excuse me. Vaxart shares soared. Company insiders, who weeks earlier had received stock options worth a few $1 million, saw the value of those awards increase sixfold. And a hedge fund that partly controlled the company walked away with more than $200 million in instant profits. The race is on to develop a coronavirus vaccine, and some companies and investors are betting that the winners stand to earn vast profits from selling hundreds of millions or even billions of doses to a desperate public. Across the pharmaceutical and medical industries, senior executives and board members are capitalizing on that dynamic. They are making millions of dollars after announcing positive developments, including support from the government in their efforts to fight COVID-19. After such announcements, insiders from at least 11 companies, most of them smaller firms whose fortunes often hinge on the success or failure of a single drug, have sold shares worth well over $1 billion since March. According to figures compiled for the New York Times by Equilar, a data provider, in some cases, company insiders are profiting from regularly scheduled compensation or automatic stock trades, but in other situations, senior officers appear to be pouncing on opportunities to cash out while their stock prices are sky high. And some companies have awarded stock options to executives shortly before market-moving announcements about their vaccine progress. The sudden windfalls highlight the powerful financial incentives for company officials to generate positive headlines in the race for coronavirus vaccines and treatments. Even if the drugs might never pan out, some companies are attracting government scrutiny for potentially using their associations with Operation Warp Speed as marketing ploys. For example, the headline on Vaxart's news release declared, Vaxart's COVID-19 vaccine selected for the U.S. government's Operation Warp Speed. But the reality is more complex. Vaxart's vaccine candidate was included in a trial on primates that a federal agency was organizing in conjunction with Operation Warp Speed. But Vaxart is not among the companies selected to receive significant financial support from Warp Speed to produce hundreds of millions of vaccine doses. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has entered funding agreements with certain vaccine manufacturers, and we are negotiating with others. Neither is the case with Vaxart, said Michael R. Caputo, the department's Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. Vaxart's vaccine candidate was selected to participate in preliminary U.S. government studies to determine potential areas for possible Operation Warp Speed partnership and support. At this time, those studies are ongoing and no determination have been made. Some officials at the Department of Health and Human Services have grown concerned about whether companies including Vaxart are trying to inflate their stock prices by exaggerating their roles in Warp Speed. A senior Trump administration official said the department has relayed those concerns to the Securities and Exchange Commission, said the official who spoke on the conditions of the anonymity. Yes, that's how you say it. It isn't clear if the commission is looking into the matter. An SEC spokeswoman declined to comment. Vaxart abides by good corporate governance, guidelines, and policies and makes decisions in accordance with the best interests of the company and its shareholders. Vaxart's chief executive, Andre Floro, and in a statement on Friday referring to Operation Warp Speed, he added, "We believe that Vaxart's COVID-19 vaccine is the most exciting one in OWS because it is the only oral vaccine or a pill in OWS. Well-timed stock transactions are generally legal, but investors and corporate governance experts say they can create the appearance that executives are profiting from inside information and could erode public confidence in the pharmaceutical industry when the world is looking to these companies to cure COVID-19. It is inappropriate for drug company executives to cash in on a crisis," said Ben Wakana, executive director of Patients for Affordable Drugs, a nonprofit and advocacy group. Everyday Americans wake up and make sacrifice during this pandemic. Drug companies see this as a payday. Executives at a long list of companies have reaped 7 or 8-figure profits thanks to their work on coronavirus vaccines and treatments. Shares of Regeneron, a biotech company in Tarrytown, New York, have climbed nearly 80% since early February, when it announced a collaboration with the Department of Health and Human Services to develop a COVID-19 treatment. Since then, the company's top executives and board members have sold nearly $700 million in stock. The chief executive, Leonard Slifer, sold $178 million of shares on a single day in May. Alexandra Bowie, a spokeswoman for Regeneron, said most of those sales have been scheduled in advance through programs that automatically sell executive shares if the stock hits a certain price. Moderna, a 10-year-old vaccine developer based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that has never brought a product to market, announced in late January that it is working on a coronavirus vaccine. It has issued a stream of news release hailing its vaccine progress, and its stock has more than tripled, giving the company a market value of almost $30 billion. Moderna have sold about $248 million of shares since that January announcement, most of it after the company was selected in April to receive federal funding to support its vaccine efforts. While some of those sales were scheduled in advance, others were more spur of the moment. Flagship Ventures, an investment fund run by the company's founder and chairman, Nobar Afeyan, sold more than $68 million worth of Moderna shares on May 21st. Those transactions were not scheduled in advance according to securities filings. Executives and board members at Luminex, Quidel, and Emergent Biosolutions have sold shares worth a combined $85 million after announcing they were working on vaccines, treatments, or testing solutions. At other companies, executives and board members received large grants of stock options shortly before the company announced good news that lifted the value of those options. Novavax, a drug maker in Gaithersburg, Maryland, began working on a vaccine early this year. This spring, the company reported promising preliminary test results and a $1.6 billion deal with the Trump administration. In April, with its shares below $24, Novavax issued a batch of new stock awards to all its employees, in acknowledgement of the extraordinary work of our employees to implement a new vaccine program. 4 senior executives, including the chief executive, Stanley Erck, received stock options that were worth less than $20 million at the time. Since then, Novavax stock has rocketed to more than $130 a share. At least on paper, the 4 executive stock options are worth more than $100 million. So long as the company hits a milestone with its vaccine testing, which it is expected to achieve soon, the executives will be able to use the option to buy discounted Novavax shares as early as next year, regardless of whether the company develops a successful vaccine. Sylvia Taylor, a Novavax spokeswoman, said the stock awards were designed to incentivize and retain our employees during this critical time. She added that there is no guarantee they will retain their value. 2 other drug makers, Translate Bio and Inovio, awarded large batches of stock options to executives and board members shortly before they announced progress on their coronavirus vaccines, sending shares higher. Representatives of the company said the options were regularly scheduled annual grants. Vaxart, though, is where the most money was made the fastest. At the start of the year, its shares were around 35 cents. Then in late January, Vaxart began working on an orally administered coronavirus vaccine, and its shares started rising. Vaxart's largest shareholder was a New York hedge fund, Armistice Capital, which last year acquired nearly 2/3 of the company's shares. Two Armistice executives, including the hedge fund's founder, Stephen Boyd, joined Vaxart's board of directors. The hedge fund also purchased rights, known as warrants, to buy 21 million more Vaxart shares at some point in the future for as little as 30 cents each. Vaxart has never brought a vaccine to market. It has just 15 employees. But throughout the spring, Vaxart announced positive preliminary data for its vaccine, along with a partnership with the company that could manufacture it. By late April, with investors sensing the potential for big profits, the company's shares had reached $3.66, a tenfold increase from January. On June 8, Vaxart changed the terms of its warrants agreement with Armistice, making it easier for the hedge fund to rapidly acquire the 21 million shares, rather than having to buy and sell in smaller batches. 1 week later, Vaxart announced that its chief executive was stepping down, though he would remain chairman. The new CEO, Mr. Flournoy, had previously worked with Mr. Boyd, Armistice founder, at the hedge fund and the consulting firm McKinsey. On June 25th, Vaxart announced that it had signed a letter of intent with another company that might help it mass produce a coronavirus vaccine. Vaxart shares nearly doubled that day. The next day, Vaxart issued its new release saying it had been selected for Operation Warp Speed. Its shares instantly doubled again, at one point hitting $14, their highest level in years. We are very pleased to be one of the few companies selected by Operation Warp Speed, and that ours is the only oral vaccine being evaluated, Mr. Flournoy said. Armistice took advantage of the stock's exponential increase at that point, up more than 3,600% since January. On June 26th, a Friday, and the next Monday, the hedge fund exercised its warrants to buy nearly 21 million Vaxart shares for either 30 cents or $1.10 a share. Purchases it would not have been able to make as quickly had its agreements with Vaxart not been modified weeks earlier. Armistice then immediately sold the shares at price from $6.58 to $12.89 a share. According to securities filings, the hedge fund's profits were immense, more than $197 million. It looks like the warrants may have been reconfigured at a time when they knew good news was coming, said Robert Daines, a professor at Stanford Law School who is an expert on corporate governance. That's a valuable change made right as the company's stock price was about to rise. At the same time, the hedge fund also unloaded some of the Vaxart shares it had previously bought, notching tens of millions of dollars in additional profits. By the end of that Monday, June 29th, Armistice had sold almost all of its Vaxart shares. Mr. Boyd and Armistice declined to comment. Mr. Flournoy said the change to the Armistice agreement was in the best interest of Vaxart and its stockholders and helped it raise money to work on the COVID-19 vaccine. He and other Vaxart board members also were positioned for big personal profits. When he became chief executive in mid-June, Mr. Flournoy received stock options that were worth about $4.3 million. A month later, those options were worth more than $28 million. Normally, when companies issue stock options to executives, the options can't be exercised for months or years. Because of the unusual terms in the run-up in Vaxart's stock price, most of Mr. Flournoy's can be cashed in now. Vaxart's board members also received large grants of stock options, giving them the right to buy shares in the company at prices well below where the stock is now trading. The higher the shares fly, the bigger the profits. Vaxart is disrupting the vaccine world, Mr. Flournoy boasted during a virtual investor conference on Thursday. He added that his impression was that it's okay to make a profit from COVID vaccines as long as you're not profiteering. So what do you guys think? I know that was a long one. If you made it this far, thank you. But what do you think? Do you think they're trying to use this vaccine to make money off of it? Because I think they are. I think this virus was made for pharmaceutical companies and for not only pharmaceutical companies, but different businesses who are in the development of making the vaccine to make more money and to be able to, of course, like they were saying, they wanted to pocket their shares basically to keep employees around. They wanted to make the shares, they wanted to put the shells out, the shares out there like, like a shrimp on a wire so you can catch that fish, or you put some squid on there so you can get the bigger fish. But my thing is this: you've been working on this in early January. By now, you should have had a vaccine. But the thing is weird to me. The corona didn't really get big until like February, mid, maybe late, and then March. But you've been doing this, working on this since January, or maybe some parts of last year. So something is not right here. And we as the people have to wake up and start looking into what is going on. Why is this happening? All of a sudden, you have companies coming together trying to build something for the virus, and all of a sudden the stock is rising on a lot of these companies when they basically gave you the blueprint saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're creating. And now everybody is basically trying to go get it and get some shares. So when it skyrockets, they can get some money coming in. But this is very dangerous. And what I mean by that is, what if you don't come up with a vaccine? What if you don't come up with one that is surely to work? Then what? Then all of a sudden you wasted all this money, and then you have people dying who are being the guinea pigs. They're saying it's monkeys, but they're testing other people, like in Africa and places that is impoverished. They're dangling money out there for you to come, even in the United States, to come get tested for the vaccine. But what if it doesn't work? What if it changed to something else where it hurts you, it hinders you more than it did before? So I'm not buying this stuff. To me, I feel like this is a ploy by the government to make their money, the pharmaceutical companies to make their money. I believe this virus was put there for that, and also to damage the market. So when they damage the market, certain people could get paid while others don't. It's always been like this, But the pandemic is real, and I hope you guys stay safe out there. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about it. I think it's downright, non-empathetic, them making money off of a vaccine and making money off of testing us with the vaccine. And then some of them might not even come up with a vaccine at all. They're just going to get the money off of even testing it, which to me is a bunch of crap, but that's what we live in, the world of money and power. So again, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to select all to receive more notifications of videos. And we're out. Live boy.